Welcome. My name is Emmanuel Campos, President of the Board of Directors of the Taft District Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. And on their behalf, I wish to welcome both the forum participants, the audience, to what we hope will be an informative evening with most of the candidates that you will have on your primary ballot. Now, at this moment in time, I'd like everybody to join me to rise and address our flag. It is located at the rear part of the room. Please join me in the flag salute. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. You may be seated. Tonight, we also hope to present the issues surrounding choices on Measure F. Now, the Chamber takes no position on the candidates or the issues presented here tonight. Our focus is on presenting the candidates and the Measure F for your personal consideration. Because our attempt to inform encompasses the ballot, we will spend only a limited amount of time with each category of candidates. You are welcome to stay after the forum to meet with the forum participants. We have invited the candidates and the advocates, both for and against Measure F, to stay after and meet our audience and the participants and enjoy this great venue here we have tonight for you. Thank you for being here, and I will now introduce our Executive Director, Dr. Cathy Orrin, who will walk us through the structure of the evening. Thank you very much.
You know, we waited to have this until the degrees exceeded 100. I just wanted you to know that everything has been very well planned. Thank you, Manny. You're going to hear from the following categories of participants. Those vying for the office of judge, first from Superior Court Office number 20, and then from Office 34, introduced by Chief Ed Whiting. Next, candidates for Kern County Supervisorial District 4 will be introduced by Brock McMurray, Interim Superintendent President of Taft College. Following the supervisorial candidates will be those for the State Assembly, District 34, who will be introduced by Harry Starkey, Manager of the West Kern Water District. Next, Eric Cooper, President of the Board of the West Side Healthcare District, will introduce the candidates for U.S. Congressman, 23rd District. Our last category will be a for and against on Measure F. Mayor Randy Miller will introduce those participants. The structure of the evening will be as follows. Judge candidates will be given 1 minute each for opening statements and 1 minute each for closing statements. Supervisorial and assembly member candidates will be asked 2 questions. After each candidate has answered the question with a 1 minute time limit, each candidate will have 1 minute to expand or rebut. Then each candidate will be asked a second question with 1 minute to expand or rebut. The last category of candidate, those for U.S. Congressional District 23, will be asked 3 questions. Finally, each candidate will have 1 minute to offer a general closing statement. The order in which candidates within each category speaks has been determined by a lottery moments ago. Since the responses are timed, we have timers. Jan Ashley, Chamber Board Member, and Madison Rubidoux, Chamber Staff Member, will time the responses, warning the candidates with cue cards when they have 15 seconds left, and then again when they have 2 seconds left. A bell will sound when time is up. I think my time is up. Chief Whiting will begin by introducing the candidates for Superior Court, Office number 20.
Thank you, Cathy, and good evening to all of you. Our first group of candidates is vying for Judge of the Superior Court, Office number 20. I will introduce them in the order that their lottery numbers picked, and the first one will be David Wolf, candidate number 1, and Stephen Shayer, candidate number 2.
Good evening, everybody.
Candidates, we're going to invite you to tell us whatever you'd like us to know about you in 1 minute of time allotted. When you have concluded, each one of you, then we'll give you a chance to make a closing statement. Candidate number 1, you may begin.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Deputy DA David Wolf, and it has been a privilege to work for you for almost 25 years fighting for justice and putting bad guys away. I have civil and significant criminal law prosecution experience, and I'm an award-winning prosecutor who is endorsed by District Attorney Lisa Green, our former District Attorney, Sheriff Donnie Youngblood, former Sheriff Mac Wimbish, and former Sheriff Carl Sparks. I'm also endorsed by Supervisor David Couch and Taft Police Chief Ed Whiting and the Taft Police Officers Association. It's not just law enforcement in Taft, but also Ridgecrest, McFarland, Delano. That's county-wide law enforcement support. So if you want to know someone who's going to be tough on crime and protect our constitutional rights, ask a cop. I volunteer as a volunteer judge pro tem, and I also volunteer with Kern County Search and Rescue, where I have been there almost 10 years. Thank you very much.
Candidate number 2, you're up.
Good evening, my name is Steve Shayer. I'm a Superior Court Commissioner. If you're looking for experience, I have that experience. I'm on the bench right now. I run a courtroom every single day. By the time this office begins in January, I will have 2 years more experience than my opponent. If you want qualifications, I have all of the qualifications. I've already been vetted by the Superior Court judges. They hired me in 2014 when they needed a judicial officer to help them with their cases. They asked for qualified candidates only. I applied. They vetted the qualified candidates, and I was the one chosen. Last year I handled family law. This year I'm handling criminal misdemeanor law. And right now I handle the arraignment calendar. I sentence criminal defendants every day. Before that, I was a civil trial attorney for 29 years, and I was also a civil arbitrator for 20 of those years, both judicial arbitrator as well as a private binding arbitrator. The individuals liked the way I decided, and they hired me privately. Thank you.
Okay, candidates, now it's time for the closing statements. Candidate number 1, please go ahead.
Ready? He just said he was vetted by the judges. Well, then they should be endorsing him. If you look at our websites, he has only one judge endorsing him on his website. I have over a dozen. That tells you that they are not impressed with the job he has done for the past year. More judges are endorsing me because I will be there to be tough on crime, fight for your constitutional rights, and protect you. He talks about civil experience. Well, he has been involved in a civil suit where a 20-year-old girl sued him and won. She did not have a lawyer to get her security deposit back. And finally, he talks in his website about civil being more important, and that's not true. You are more likely to be a victim of crime this next year than you are to be involved in a civil suit. 1 in 4 of you will likely be a victim of identity theft. You need somebody with significant criminal experience, and the judge that's retiring is one of our most experienced criminal judges. You need a prosecutor to step up to the plate. Thank you.
Candidate number 2.
Thank you. I'm taking over for Judge Lewis. He's my supervising judge right now. He's the one vacating the seat. He started as a commissioner just as I have started, and he moved on to a judge's position just as I hope to do so. Outside of the law, I am a Rotarian for over 21 years, and I just hosted yet again the 1,000 Flags Memorial Day celebration in Bakersfield. If you saw that, I was the one who started that 2 years ago. In addition, I am the individual who handles cases every day. I sit at the pleasure of the Superior Court judges. They are actually impressed with my dedication, my work ethic, my judicial temperament. They realize that that's what I had, and that's why they hired me, and they realize that, and that's why they put me in the difficult jobs. Family law is one of the most time-consuming, most dangerous jobs, and criminal misdemeanors requires a highly efficient jurist who is patient, because I'm going to handle between 23 and 24,000 cases this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates. This concludes the time for candidates for Superior Court Office number 20. You may exit the platform. Our second group of candidates for Superior Court Judge are for office number 34, and I would welcome them to the platform in order of their lottery numbers. The first is Arturo Revelo. And candidate number 2 is Cory Woodward. And number 3 is Tiffany Organ Bowles. Okay, candidates, we invite you to tell us whatever you'd like us to know about you in 1 minute in the time allotted. Once you have all concluded, then we'll give you each a chance to make a closing statement. Candidate number 1, you may begin.
My name is Arturo Revelo. I'm an attorney. I've done civil work, criminal defense, probate, a number of things. I'm the only veteran running for this position. I worked as a clerk in the courts. I have been a member of a community that struggles in a daily basis trying to understand why Judge Woodward remains on the bench in seat 34. And this January I decided that, given my experience, I represent a better candidate for the judgeship for that position, and that the embarrassment that Judge Woodward represents to this county should end, and that's why I'm running for judge.
Candidate number 2.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Judge Cory Woodward, and what I want to tell you is that I have been blessed to have served the community of Kern County for 29 years. I started my career as a prosecutor, worked there for 16 years. Then I was elected commissioner by the Superior Court judges for a period of 4 years, and now I've been as judge for the last 9 years. So I've been on the bench for 13 years. I have heard every type of case that almost every type of case that comes before the Kern County bench. Everything from traffic to murder, from divorce to business disputes, to restraining orders. I'm one of a handful of judges that has that type of experience, that broad experience. I have been living in East Kern County, which is where this office is, for 21 years, and I hope to continue that service. Thank you.
Candidate number 3.
Good evening. My name is Tiffany Organ Bowles. I'm a deputy district attorney with the Kern County District Attorney's Office, much like Mr. Wolf before me. I have served with the DA's office for the past 11 years. I have prosecuted any number of cases. I often refer to myself as a utility player with the District Attorney's Office. I've worked in general felonies, branch courts, domestic violence, DUI, felonies, and homicides. And then in the last 4 years of my career, I have been working in the juvenile courts in East Bakersfield, where I handle a caseload that covers the entire county, from misdemeanors of the most petty sort, all the way to sex crimes and the occasional vehicular manslaughter. I am running tonight, and I've been running for quite a while, for seat number 34, because I want to affect change here in Kern County. I'm a Kern County native. I have the drive, the integrity, and the ambition to serve this county well and to make this county proud. Thank you.
Okay, candidates, now is the time for a closing statement. Candidate number 1.
This is not about winning. This is about respect for the bench. All the experience in the world is not going to erase what he did on the bench. The Commission on Judicial Performance has a report on what he did to us, the voters of this county, and what he did to the bench. I am the only veteran running for this position. I have the legal experience required by law to serve as a judge, and I have the moral and the ethical standing that guarantees that you are not going to be ashamed of having me sitting as a judge, and that I will guarantee you that I will do my job for you and for every voter of the county of Kern. Thank you.
candidate number 2. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, the argument that my opponents have against me is basically I should not be forgiven for something that happened over 3 years ago that I have accepted full responsibility for, that my wife has forgiven me for, and that Christ has forgiven me for. Ultimately, it'll be up to you to decide whether you are that forgiving as well. As I indicated, I am the most qualified candidate here. They cannot say they have more qualifications, they cannot say they have more experience than I do. They can't say that they lived in East Kern, which is where this office historically is. They cannot say that they've even appeared in East Kern, at least in front of me. They cannot say they have more endorsements. I have endorsements of 15 judges in Superior Court, including Judge Phillips, who many of you may know. I have 8 police chiefs, including Chief Whiting. I have 5 police unions, including the Taft Police Department. So don't listen just to us, ladies and gentlemen. I ask you to consider those others that would tell you today that I am the best candidate and deserving of your vote. Thank you.
And candidate number 3.
It's a funny word, experience. What does somebody do with experience? And in the case of Judge Woodward, he violated a trust. It's not about forgiveness, folks. This is about an office that has been tarnished. I am prepared to restore integrity to that seat. I have experience in multiple areas of the district attorney's office. I have the support of the county sheriff. I have the support of the Kern County Young Republicans, and you're welcome to check out my website and see the other endorsers that I have. I will return integrity to the bench, and Kern County deserves that. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. This concludes the time for candidates for Superior Court Office number 34. You may leave the platform. I'd like now to welcome Mr. Brock Murray, the Interim Superintendent President of the Taft College, to the podium. Brock will be introducing the candidates for the county's 4th Supervisorial District. Nice one.
Thank you, Chief Whiting. Good evening. As the Chief said, my task is to introduce you to the candidates running for Supervisor of the 4th District of Kern County. As they are introduced, I would like them to come to the platform in the order of lottery. And they are Mr. Robert Owen and Mr. David Couch. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement, then I will ask the first question. Each candidate will have 1 minute to rebut or expand upon his answer. The same process will be followed for the second question. Then the time will end with each candidate having 1 minute for a closing statement. Let's get started. Candidate number 1, Mr. Owen, please give us your opening statement.
Thank you, sir. I am Robert Owen, and it may sound like a common theme here tonight, but I'm also a Deputy District Attorney. Before that, I served with the United States Marine Corps and attained the rank of Sergeant. Since a very young age, I have been fighting for other people's rights. I do so every day in a courtroom. I fight for victims, I fight to get their money back, I fight to make something right in their life and prove to them that the justice system still works. My life has been a life of public service, and I want to serve the people of Kern County. I want to fight for you. I want to bring a voice for the voiceless to the people of Kern County, and that is why I'm running. Thank you very much.
Candidate number 2, Mr. David Couch, please give us your opening statement.
This will be a little odd because I know a lot of you, but for those of you that I don't know, I want to say first of all thank you to the Taft Chamber and thank you to the Taft Petroleum Club for having this forum tonight. My name is David Couch. I was born and raised in Bakersfield. I went to local public schools, attended BHS, went to San Jose State, came back to Bakersfield, and I got a job with Occidental Exploration and Production as an accountant. I did that for a few years, and then I ended up in a career in a business that I'd always sort of had an interest in and I wanted to work in, and that was the investment field. I worked for Dean Witter, Smith Barney, and Morgan Stanley, which coincidentally all became the same company in the end of that 25-year period. During that time, I also served 14 years on the Bakersfield City Council, which is now the 9th largest city in California. And fortunately, 3.5 years ago, I was elected to serve you in the 4th District on the Board of Supervisors. I will close now. That was the fastest 2 minutes I've ever run through, I think. I look forward to earning your vote on June 7th. Thank you very much.
Now, time for the first question. County budget. The current county budget will be the main topic for the Board of Supervisors meeting on Tuesday, June 21st. It appears the overall budget will be reduced by roughly 25% due to economic realities. Where should the largest cuts come from, and which areas are most important to maintain? Mr. Owen, your time begins.
Obviously, the most important thing is public safety. We have to ensure that our sheriff, his deputies, are available and have the needs and the means to do their job, especially in outlying districts like Taft, Willow, Wasco, the unincorporated areas. And right now, they're having to close substations. The cut in the budget, we shouldn't be here. We should have planned for this day. You all know the oil industry. You all know when we have boom, we have bust. And my opponent didn't plan for this day. Where we're going to cut? Well, right now, they've dedicated or demanded a 5% across the board cut everywhere. I don't think that's smart. I encourage this county to make our services from sheriff and firefighters. And I'm about out of time.
Mr. Couch, your time begins when you begin.
We have about a $55 million shortfall due to the drop in the price of oil. Other property taxes have actually gained slightly. That $55 million is made up from about 30 to 35 million in the general fund and about 20 million in the fire fund. And everybody is going to stand before you and say that public safety is our most important priority, which it is. But I would be doing you a disservice if I said that departments across the board are going to have to do more with less. My opponent has criticized me for not planning for this. Well, no one plans for the drop in the price of oil like you all saw. Secondly, he's also criticized me for something he calls my economic philosophy of attrition. Let me explain what that is. Attrition is if you have to get to a smaller workforce, which I believe we're going to have to do, you do it through people retiring or moving on from their current job, and you don't do it through layoffs, because layoffs are extremely disruptive to the organization, and they're obviously disruptive to the employees. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Now it is time for rebuttal or expansion. You have 1 minute. Mr. Owen, your time begins when you begin.
Well, let me finish saying what I was going to say. Public safety is probably the most important thing that this county has to offer. But what we really need to do is figure out a way to bring revenue into this county. Right now is possibly the new normal. The change in the gas tax, with the change in the way revenue is brought into this county, right now is how things might be for the foreseeable future. And we need to start planning, and we need to start figuring out how to bring in revenue. And if that means raising taxes, like Measure F, then that's what I'm all for. And I believe that is the best way to ensure services, and I believe that is the best way to ensure profitability, because we need to reinvest in ourselves. We need to invest in ourselves through public works. We need to reinvest in ourselves through things like the library, so that our workforce can retool, re-equip, and retrain. But also so that people can expand their mind and have a place to go where they feel safe, and a place to go where they can experience the world. Our county,
Mr. Couch?
This is a very significant difference between myself and my opponent. He would like to raise your taxes. I would like to create, or have a hand in creating, more taxpayers. There's a big difference. Every time, Measure F is a good example. The people that are for Measure F, lots of them will say, well, don't worry, No other departments are going to do this. No other departments are going to come and ask for more tax revenue. I can promise you right now, there are departments that are doing exactly that, and they are mobilizing to come forward and ask us to put measures on the ballot to increase the sales tax so they can fund their operations. I do not think that just taxing you more and throwing more money at a hole or a problem is productive. It's not even the right way to go. We have an opportunity right now to make the county, because we have to, do things differently. If we just tax you a little bit more and throw more money at the problem, it will never change. And we have an opportunity to do it very, very differently right now. That opportunity has been thrust upon us, but we have the opportunity. Thank you.
Question number 2. The state level initiatives of Prop 47 and AB 109 has made an impact on how crime is handled at the local level. What adjustments have been made at the county level to mitigate the effects of these two initiatives, and what, if anything, does the county plan to do to overturn these initiatives? Mr. Owen?
Well, the impact on the county is a huge unfunded mandate. Right now, the effect of those two measures created a system called local prison. Local prison is really the county jail. What we have now is a sheriff trying to struggle with housing and incarcerating men and women who break what used to traditionally be felonies that would go to the state prison. That puts a cost on our county. That puts a tax on our sheriff. It puts a tax on us because we're having to pay for a new jail. We're having to pay for new sheriffs. We're having to pay to maintain those people with 3 hots and a cot. We're having to put up with their suits to our county because they're complaining about the way that they're treated or the way that they're living. How the county is dealing with it right now is going into huge debt to build and finance a new prison, a new local jail. What we need to do is look at ways that we can rehabilitate these offenders.
Mr. Couch?
We're not going into huge debt. We're not going into any debt. Let me tell you what happened with AB 109 and what the state did with every county up and down the state. And I give a lot of credit to our own Sheriff, Donnie Youngblood, for negotiating this. The new jail that we're having to build is costing upwards, well, over $100 million, $120, $125 million. The state is there, right now anyway, and this is the reason we're building it, with 90% up to $100 million. So they're willing to put $90 million into the construction of the new jail right now. If we wait even a year until this opportunity is passed, they may not be there with that money. That's why we move forward with the jail right now, new jail right now, to take these people that are incarcerated, the really bad ones, the felons that you do not want on the street. That's why we move forward now to build that jail. It will be open, and we were on track until the price of oil dropped by simply cutting our budget 2 or 3% a year over about a 7-year period to come up with the revenue needed to fund the operations of the jail. We were planning until the price of oil dropped. Thank you very much.
Mr. Owen, rebuttal or expansion?
We are going into debt. And let's be clear, these felons, some of them are harsh felons. And I have no love for any felons. Anybody, any defense attorney I've ever worked with will tell you that. But the really harsh felons are going to state prison. What this created was 1170H. Burglars, not home burglars, but second-degree burglars. People like this, the mid-range felons. I don't want them out on the street either, but I also don't want to pay to house them forever either. The truth of how this system works is you can't even hardly punish them for the full time allowed by law. They are required to be released. And if they're going to be required to be released, then we should get something for it. We should have rehabilitated people. We should have them becoming this tax base that Mr. Couch keeps suggesting he's just going to grow overnight. It's not going to happen as long as we're going to keep incarcerated. It's not going to happen so long as we're tied to the system of cut or catch and release. And that's what the DA is going through, that's what the sheriff is going through, and the tax is on your police.
Thank you. Mr. Couch?
Nobody is suggesting that anything is going to grow overnight. He knows that. This is the second debate we've been at where he says something that is absolutely incorrect, and his response to that is to actually double down. We are not going into debt. I defy you to point to the debt that we are incurring to build that jail. We are paying it with cash. If you pay, how many people here pay for something with cash, you end up with debt? Every one of you knows that is not the case when you do that. That is what is happening, and why on earth you would continue to double down and say something that is absolutely not true, I have no idea. That is not the case. And I don't want you folks to leave here tonight. I will give you the bad news. I will tell you if we're going into debt. That is not the way we were handling this. You need to be told the truth.
Thank you. Now we will hear closing statements from our candidates. Mr. Owen.
Thanks, sir. My opponent said that the chief difference between us is about taxes. It isn't. The chief difference between us is I believe you have the right to make decisions for yourselves. I believe you have the right to be informed by your political representatives. I believe you have the right to be given all the information, warts and all, good, bad, and different, to make decisions for yourself. The best way that I can point to you that chief difference is not my opponent's opposition to Measure F. It's his unwillingness to even put it on the ballot for you to decide. I believe in representation by the people. I believe in representation of a well-informed electorate. And that is what I believe should have happened. The difference between he and I is I would have given you the opportunity to make that choice and live with your decision. I will give you the opportunity to know everything that is going on, and I will be there to represent you and not my personal interests, not my personal decisions. Thank you.
Mr. Couch?
I'll address that real quickly. We're in the middle of a financial crisis. It costs us at least $30,000 to put that on the ballot. It needs 66 2/3 to pass. I don't think it has a chance of passing. It's a waste of $30,000, which means there's at least one person, if not two, part-time, that we're not going to get to hire, or we might have to lay off, just to put that on the ballot so people can vote on something that probably has very little chance of passing. And we never actually tried the other solutions, nor did we even ask for the information. First time in my 18 years of public service where I was told, you don't need the information, just cast a vote. That's what the other side has said. I want to sum up by thanking you for being here tonight. I'm asking for your vote on June 7th, and I want to reiterate that I am supported, and I'm going to tell you who I'm the most proud of, by Sheriff Donnie Youngblood, former Sheriff Carl Sparks, the Kern County Prosecutors Association, and every single city council member that represents any square inch of the 4th District. And it's those people that work their tail off for you that I am the most proud of having their support. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you. This concludes the portion of the forum for supervisorial candidates. Gentlemen, you may step down. I would like to welcome Harry Starkey, General Manager of the West Kern Water District, to the podium.
Okay, I've got it. Thank you, Brock. It's time to hear from the candidates for the 34th District of the State Assembly. As I say their names, I would like them to come to the platform in the order of the lottery. They are Vince Fong, Ernie Gallehon, and Michael Garcia Bigley. Also running but not with us tonight is Perrin Swanland. Okay. So each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. Then I will ask the first question. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. Then each candidate will have 1 minute to rebut or expand upon his answer. The same process will be followed for the second question. Then the time will end when each candidate having 1 minute for closing statement. Let's get started. Mr. Fong, please give us your opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Vince Fong. I'm running for the 34th Assembly District. I'm born and raised in Kern County. For the past 10 years, I've been the district director to Congressman Kevin McCarthy, overseeing all his local policy initiatives. Over the past 10 years, I have never seen a time right now when one area of the state, which is the state that we call home, the part that we call home, that has been negatively impacted by the decisions made in Sacramento. And we as Californians are tired of paying more and getting less. And the reason why we're getting less and paying more is because of the policies, whether it's the regulations, the taxes, everything that comes from Sacramento. I believe I'm the best qualified to fight for our way of life here in Kern County. I've been endorsed by Shannon Grove, Kevin McCarthy, Gene Fuller, members of the local city council here in Taft, the sheriff, the local district attorney. We need to bring water to our valley. We need to improve our business climate, and we need to fight crime. And those are the three issues right now that are facing our community that we need to focus on. So I'm proud of the work I've done in Taft, and I'd be honored to have your support.
Thank you. Mr. Gallehon, please give us your opening statement.
Well, once again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming here tonight. Thank you for the Chamber for putting this forum together. My name is Ernie Gallehon. I am running, just like Mr. Fong, everybody here, for the 34th District State Assembly. A little bio on myself. I'm third generation Kern County resident. My grandfather came from Texas as ag and oil. My father was 33 years in oil, 27 years as a peace officer myself, 4 years as a reserve firefighter. I've got 31 years of public service in public safety. So with that, I've got 24 years of being married to my wife, which is another public service. I've got two beautiful kids, a daughter who just graduated from Cal Baptist and a son who just graduated from Taft College, going to go to Cal Baptist. But my main thing for running is to run for the fact that we need public safety. And public safety is what I'm for, and water for the farmers, and then to deregulate our oil industry. And I'm sorry for that.
Thank you, Mr. Gallehon. Mr. Bigley, please give us your opening statement.
Hello, I'm Michael Garcia Bigley. I'm running for the Assembly in the 34th District. And when I hear these candidates up here talking about all their endorsements, I only hear establishment. That's what I hear, because most of the candidates have the same endorsements. And if you really want to vet a candidate, it's really simple, and people don't realize this. Just go to their donor list and see who's paying them, who is supporting them, because that's who they're going to represent. They're not going to represent us. If you want to find someone that's going to represent you, find somebody that's spending their own money or spending local money, people that have an interest in their own community. And I do have one big endorsement though, and that's my wife. 30 years, she's jumped aboard, she's come on and she's helped me. She's freed me up to do the things I need to do, speak, get to the topics, and I don't have to do the paperwork. Sometimes she runs me ragged and makes me dress up and do things I don't want to do, but you know, those are the things you have to do for this job. But I'm really a hands-on construction guy, is where I come from.
Thank you, Mr. Bigley. So now's the time for the first question, and it's a question on state regulation. Many Californians feel our state is overregulated. Tell us which regulations are most oppressive in your view, and how you would go about enacting change or modifications to those regulations. Mr. Fong, your time begins when you begin.
Well, I got 1 minute to list all the regulations. Wow. There is a long litany of regulations that are impacting our local community, but I would say that in Taft, when we look at our local oil industry, look at AB 32. We have local industries right now that were told that when compliance costs for AB 32 was going to be $250,000, they're spending millions of dollars right now complying to a law that won't have any effect to improve our environment. And that is money that could be used to expand business, to hire more people. And so we need science-based regulations, but right now, all our industries right now in Kern County are under siege. Everyone I talk to that is in our local community right now is feeling that burden. And so we need someone in Sacramento that will fight the fight, that will build a coalition bigger than we've ever built and rein back those regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fong.
Mr. Gallehon, your time begins when you begin.
All right, well, it begins right now. Once again, the oil industry. The oil industry is being strangled, handcuffed, however you want to say it, with the regulations. I heard that Kern County's oil is number 3 or 4 in the nation, just Kern County. We're talking about Texas being number 1 and so on and so forth, but we could easily be number 1, provide more jobs for the people here. I mean, we have the highest unemployment rate, but yet we have the most oil sitting here at our fingertips. We need to release that. We need to allow that to flourish and create jobs through that. There'll be an abundance amount of jobs if we deregulate the oil and work hard at that. So with that, my main interest is deregulating the oil.
Thank you, Mr. Gallehon. Mr. Bigley, your time starts when you start.
Well, Sacramento has a problem of overregulating us on freedom and capitalism. Anything that has to do with freedom to have say over our own water, freedom to have say over our own roads and highways, and they're going to keep overregulating us. And what we keep doing wrong is we keep letting them spend the general fund on all the entitlement programs, and then they ask us for bond measures because they know we need infrastructure, we need roads, we need water, and foolishly, and our congressman voted for Prop 1. $2.9 billion is tied up with the environmentalists, and that $5.9 billion is renovating the sands over Oceano Dunes and building bike paths. So we need to be a little smarter about how we let them regulate us, and we need to get on Sacramento and make them spend the general fund money on what we need.
Thank you, Mr. Gallehon. Okay, now is the time for a rebuttal or expansion. You have 1 minute. Mr. Fong.
Well, I think if you look at another example of just the burdens placed on small businesses, just look at the increase in the minimum wage. That is not just going to impact small businesses. That's going to impact our school districts. That's going to impact our hospitals. That's going to impact our nonprofits. And that's something that right now passed through Sacramento, just ran through, and people don't realize that impact. And so we need someone to fight the minimum wage increase. If we can find a way to roll it back, we obviously need to prioritize. We need to stop the high-speed rail. I'm very proud to work for Congressman Kevin McCarthy to stop all high-speed rail funding from the federal government. And I'm the only one on this stage that has done that. And there's a litany of things right now that we can find to save in terms of our budget. But if you're looking for someone to fight in Sacramento, I'm your candidate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fong. Mr. Gallehon, your time begins when you begin.
All right, well, I'm gonna stick with the oil. Father worked 33 years in the oil industry, from the bottom all the way up to field supervisor. I know the ins and outs and ups and downs of living in an oil field family. And I know that Kern County in the oil is number 1 and will be number 1. And as soon as we get off the OPEC and we get more to our own resources and be the OPEC of the world, which from what I've heard recently, that Taft, this area is sitting on a pool on top of a pool of ocean of oil. We've got the shale oil. We've got unlimited resources here that is going to provide more jobs than we ever thought of for the future. So deregulating this oil industry, taking the handcuffs off, is what we need to do to thrive our community and this community in Taft. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallehon. Mr. Bigley, your time starts when you start.
Well, I'm not an elected official, and I've never been, so I'm not going to claim to be an incumbent up here, because I've really not done anything on my own, and none of us have done anything on their own up here. So some of the things we have problems with, like in the oil industry, because I've actually worked out here in Taft in the oil industry, we want to keep the EPA out of here. It's better to handle things with ourselves. We want to keep OSHA out of here. And one of the biggest problems with those two outfits is safety, and usually human error. So we have to have good safety programs. We have to keep our guys safe. Because most of the time it's not issues with something going wrong on the job. It's mostly human error that does these things. Now, I'm a construction guy. I've worked on water delivery. I've worked on jobs with reservoirs and dams. I've seen environmental problems that went away when the MWD got involved because they've got a lot of money and clout. So we don't have environmental issues. We have establishment issues, and most of them come from Los Angeles, MWD and the DWP.
Thank you, Mr. Bigley. Okay, question number 2, and it's on water. Now that it appears the State Water Board will relax their water regulations grip to allow water districts to police themselves, we might be experiencing a bit of a respite. However, the drought is not over, particularly with the state of the groundwater basin. What do you see as steps we must take to ensure fair and equitable access to the water for the future? Mr. Fong.
Well, simply put, right now, we need to turn the pumps on, right? We have naturally flowing into the San Joaquin Delta region millions of gallons of water, hundreds of thousands of acre-feet of water, and we are only pumping a very small percentage of water that we paid for in full. If you look at the state water project, we're getting probably a 15-20% allocation. If you look at the federal water project, we're getting a 4 to 5% allocation. Where's all that other water going to? It's going out to the ocean. The current federal law says that we can pump at a maximum to negative 75 acre-feet, which is obviously a lot of water. We aren't allowed to do that because of the smelt. Congressman McCarthy obviously is fighting in DC, and I will be an advocate in Sacramento to get Governor Brown and put pressure on the state bureaucracy to the Central Valley. The only question when it comes to when we're debating water to our communities. If any project that we debate or any rule that we debate, if it doesn't answer that question in the affirmative way, then we can't support it.
Thank you, Mr. Fong. Mr. Gallehon.
Well, on the water issue here, we did have a good rainfall this year, and they are cutting back. But I think our community needs to save 5 or 10%, save water, do something with that water, fill our aquifers. Another idea I thought we could expand Lake Buena Vista to be a natural reservoir to save our water. As far as fighting for it, of course we're going to fight for it. We got to get a coalition. We got to get to up and down all the state of California, in the San Joaquin Valley, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, every district. We need to get together. You want to call it a band of brothers? We're a band of Americans fighting for this valley, for the farmers, for the water. And once we get that water, then let's use it wisely. Let's fill the aquifers. Let's get the reserves filled up again, so we can have that for the rainy days, the droughts that will come. That comes every 5-6 years in this region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallehon. Mr. Bigley.
Well, the amount of rainfall we get is pretty insignificant because it doesn't last. We need a lot of snowfall. We need a lot of snow in the Sierras. We have water. And part of the problem we're not getting our water is not really the environmentalists up north, because I've talked to them up north, the fishermen on the Delta, the people that use the Delta don't want to give us water. Down south, DWP is afraid if we get too much water, they're not going to have enough water for Los Angeles and their area, so they're not for us. But the bottom line is they're actually trying to break some long-term water contracts that have been around forever. And there's a test case going on right now, and if they break that water contract, we're really going to be in trouble with our farms, because these are grandfathered in these contracts, and if they can break them, they're going to be able to control all the water. So that's really what it's about. It's about the power in Sacramento and Los Angeles, trying to keep us from having water in the Central Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Bigley. Okay, thank you. Now we have time for rebuttal or expansion. You'll each have 1 minute. Mr. Fong.
Well, to get the water to the Central Valley or Los Angeles or San Diego or Orange County, it needs to be pumped. And so it has to come from the Delta. We need to turn the pumps on. 25 million Californians, not just here, obviously in Central Valley, we understand the pain that comes with the man-made drought, gets its drinking water from the Delta. It's not just a Central Valley problem, it's a California issue. So short term, we need to do what we can within the parameters to turn the pumps on. Long term, obviously, we need to build more conveyance facilities and water storage. If we were able to stop the high-speed rail funding and shift it over to water storage, we would have the money to build storage. But that's a 5 to 10 and 15-year project. We need a short-term plan and we need a long-term plan. The water is there. The fresh water is there. People argue about desalinization. Why would we push water out to the ocean, fresh water, to make it salt water and spend billions of dollars to make it fresh? We have the water now. We just need to pump it down to our communities.
Thank you, Mr. Fong. Mr. Gallehon.
Well, I agree that we do have the water up there, and they are pumping it out to the ocean. But here's the thing: when you got congressmen telling us that they'll give us the water, when you got governors telling us they're going to turn on the pumps and give us the water, when you got presidents telling us they're going to turn the pumps on and bring us water, and we don't get the water, they're playing political football with us, understandably so. But I think with anything and everything in our government, the true power rests with the people. So let's take it to the people. Let's get the people behind this. This is a California thing. Let's get the state of California behind it. And then we should probably get results with that kind of action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallehon. Mr. Bigley.
Well, it's easy to say turn the pumps on, but with this legislature we have, it's not going to happen. You got 52 Democrats and 28 Republicans on the assembly floor, and you can throw grenades and take punches at them all day long. They're just going to laugh at you. So you're going to have to go up there and find a new way to get them to start voting your way, to turn on the water and do the things we need to do. And I think the way to do it is to go up there and start getting their voters to start questioning their actions and start talking to their voters and tell their voters you're going to listen to them, and you email me and I'm going to bring it up on the assembly floor. Because the only thing these politicians understand is their next election. So once those politicians start seeing their next election might be in jeopardy, they might be thinking about taking a vote to turn on the pumps again. Because they're surely not going to do it if we go up there and fight with them. And it's easy in a conservative district to vote in conservative issues. All I gotta do is vote conservative all day long. I'm gonna get reelected. But nothing's gonna happen. We're not gonna achieve anything.
Thank you, Mr. Gallehon. Mr. Bigley. Apologize, I'm sorry. Okay, we're now going to have closing statements from our candidates. They're timed at 1 minute. Your time begins when you begin, Mr. Fong.
Whether it's fighting to get permits for our local energy producers or whether it's working to get Ben Scully to Taft, I've been here in Taft. I've been here to the west side. I'm a known quantity here. I've gone to the chamber, sit and sips. I've listened to the community. I know every issue that's facing this community. And if you're going to elect someone to fight for this community, they better know what's going on in this community. I am proud of the endorsements I've had. I've worked with every elected official throughout the entire all of Kern County, and I am proud to work with them. And that's why they've endorsed me. This is my home. This is the area that I love. This is the place I was born and raised in. And there is no place I would have this opportunity than Kern County. And so on June 7th, I will earn your vote, and I'd be honored to have your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fong. Mr. Gallehon.
Once again, thank you for the City of Taft inviting all of us up here for this forum. I started this campaign back in January, and I went out to be other people. You got to get out with the people. So I decided to not pay money to get on the ballot, to go out and get signatures to get on the ballot. So I went to various different places throughout our county to get signatures to get on the ballot. And I said, if the people want me to get on the ballot and like what I had got to say, they'll sign, they'll help me get on the ballot. Well, I got over 1,400 signatures to get on the ballot. The largest of anybody that's running for office. And so the people told me, in so many words, they like what I had to say. So I guess when you say endorsements, I got over 1,500 people endorsing me to run for office. Thank you very much, and appreciate your vote on June 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Gallehon. Mr. Bigley.
Well, let's get back to the establishment and the endorsements again, because everybody in this whole district endorses is endorsing Vince, and I called out to Hatchbeak and I asked him, so you're endorsing Vince? Did you vet all the candidates? No. Why not? Every city, every town, nobody vetted all the candidates. I even called out the Howard Jarvis Tax Association, said, so did you vet all the candidates? No, but he looked like he was a good guy. So that's how you get your endorsements. You get your endorsements because he worked for somebody powerful. And as far as seeing Taft, you know, try seeing Taft from the seat of a crane or a backhoe out in the oil fields, because that's where I've seen Taft from. And I've been out here working, and I know the problems, I know the environmental, I know the safety issues. Now, as far as a guy goes, I think it's time we send a guy up there with some experience in construction, water systems, highways. And, you know, fortunately for me, with the H-1B visa program, I can hire somebody educated to do my paperwork. But we need a guy that goes up there that's actually done the work.
Thank you, Mr. Bigley. Thank you, candidates. This concludes the portion of the forum for Assembly member candidates. You may leave the platform. We're going to take a 15-minute break in the proceedings so that you guys can stretch and refresh. When we continue, we'll begin with the candidates for the 23rd U.S. Congressional District, and the forum will conclude with advocates both for and against Measure F. We'll see you back here in 15 minutes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get this event going back up again. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the little reprieve. It is with pleasure that I welcome Eric Cooper to the podium as the moderator for the next portion of the forum. Eric is co-owner of Cooper's True Value and president of the board of the Westside Healthcare District. Please help me welcome Eric.
Thank you, Manny. Good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome the candidates for the 23rd U.S. Congressional District to the platform. As I introduce them in the order of the lottery number, I ask they come up to the platform and be seated. Candidate number 1, Ken Mettler. Candidate number 2, Wendy Reed. And our third candidate, Congressman Kevin McCarthy, could not be with us tonight. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. Then I will ask the first question. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. Then each candidate will have 1 minute to rebut or expand upon the answer. The same process will be followed for the second and third questions. Then there will be time at the end with each candidate having 1 minute for a closing statement. Let's get started. Mr. Mettler, please give us your opening statement. Sure.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out tonight. I love this. This is old-fashioned politics. This is democracy. This is the way it should be in every city through this district. I was born here locally. I grew up on 119 Adams Street in Ford City, right across the catty corner to the Roundhouse. I am so old that I remember my grandmother saying, "Go out and play in the gravel," because that was before the aqueduct water came in. So my grandfather worked for Standard Oil. I later in life worked as a petroleum landman under contract with Occidental Petroleum. I have served on school boards for 16 years. I served 4 years in the current high school district. We reinstituted Christmas and we reinstituted the Pledge of Allegiance, among other achievements while I was on that board. And I also served as president of the California Republican Assembly, a group of fiscal and social conservatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. When you're ready.
Hello, I'm Wendy Reed, and I traveled across the country and came here by choice. I've been here for 30 years, in which time I have served on numerous boards and committees, engaged with local governance, and engaging people in our district with the government agencies and government processes that affect us. I do believe that in Congress, what we really need to do is to reprioritize our budget for the benefit of the real people of our district. I would like to bring federal funding for infrastructure in water and transportation and communications, and restore the funding that we used to get for healthcare facilities and educational things that we need to improve in our district. I will fight to incentivize and invest in new technologies for our oil industries, for our water delivery systems, and I don't think that we need to export our food or our crude. We need to build new refineries, meet the environmental regulations with new technologies, and just do better.
Okay, now's the time for our first of three questions. First one, Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, has changed many aspects of the delivery of health care in our country. How would you assess the success or shortcomings, and what steps would you take to improve it going forward? Mr. Mettler, your time begins when you begin.
Well, the Affordable Care Act needs to be repealed and replaced with private sector alternatives. We don't need one size fits all. It's bankrupting this country. It's consuming over 20% of the economy. It is atrocious. It needs to be gone. The incumbent congressman, our congressman, Kevin McCarthy, voted not to defund Obamacare in 2015. It's atrocious, and he's part of the problem. That is the main reason why I'm running for office, was to challenge him on his votes, and this is one of the most egregious votes he did with the omnibus bill in 2015, which was 2,000 pages long with 1,000 pages of notes. It was handed to his caucus 72 hours before they had to vote on it, and it included all the provisions of Obama's agenda. That is why I am running for his seat in the Congress.
Ms. Reed?
I don't believe that it's consuming 20% of our gross domestic product. I do believe that Obamacare fell short of what we really need, which is to eliminate the middleman of private insurance. The reason that Mr. McCarthy and my opponent probably don't want to have any kinds of single-payer health care is because of the interests of huge banks and huge insurance companies. We pay a lot of money for our medical insurance, and we're not getting it back. Medicare is a very good program, and my dad got excellent care until the very end of his life through Medicare. We can do a lot better than Obamacare, but because of the obstruction in Congress and the failure to be able to work across the aisle on reasonable, rational legislation that's good for all Americans, we have this difficulty with what was in essence an effort to provide health care for all of us.
Thank you, candidates. Now is the time for rebuttal or expansion. You have 1 minute. Mr. Mettler?
Well, Obamacare, the problem is it's a top-down approach. We don't need top-down approaches. We need free market solutions. We need to be able to sell insurance coverage, catastrophic insurance coverage across state lines. We need to lower the cost of medical services. Right now, the problem is we have no cost containment in the system. It's going up way more than the cost of the rate of inflation. So we need to get cost containment. And the only way you're going to get cost containment is if the consumer of medical services knows what things cost and can shop in the marketplace and get the best services for the price. The problem is right now, when you throw more money at an issue, the price goes up. We need cost containment, we need free market solutions, and we don't need the government involved in our health care.
Ms. Reed?
I know that sounds very good and very reassuring, but it is not the truth. Privatization is the private insurance companies that were totally out of hand and that were denying people insurance coverage when they switched jobs because of pre-existing conditions. The costs of the insurance were already out of control, and the attempt of the Affordable Care Act was to rein them in. It is always egregious for people to seek public office at the same time as bad-mouthing the very government they're seeking to enter. Regrettably, the private free market capital system, Mettler's business failed, and he had to lay off all of his workers. The free market system needs regulation from the government to keep us all safe.
Okay. Thank you. Now we'll move on to question number 2, which deals with immigration. Discussions about the solutions to illegal immigration often center on the building or not building of a wall. However, almost half of our illegal immigrant population is the result of the expiration of temporary visas. What do you see are the main issues surrounding illegal immigration, and what solutions seem the most promising to you? Mr. Mettler.
Well, first of all, you've heard this redundantly because this question is big in this political season, but we do need a wall. Any country to maintain its sovereignty has to have a wall. We see aren't being properly sequestered for a period of time so we know what's going on. Any country needs to have borders. I thought it was very interesting that Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein just promoted a law, and they just voted for it, that is requiring our allies to secure their borders. The hypocrisy is unbelievable. So we need to have secure borders. We absolutely have to maintain the sovereignty of our country, and then we will deal with all the other issues that are part of that whole package of issues with illegal immigration. Also, the incumbent congressman voted to allow 266,000 H-2B visas into this country. Non-agricultural workers who are taking jobs from Americans. That's the kind of votes that we cannot allow the incumbent to stay in office, and because he's doing damage to our workforce.
Ms. Reed, when you begin.
And to clarify, those are legal immigrants who did wait online and which are being used more and more to replace American workers as we suppress the right of Americans to stand up and represent themselves, not only in government, but in their workplaces. These are the things that have made America great over the decades, is that kind of progress. So regarding immigration, it is a very multifaceted problem. We have undocumented workers because guess what? They are working. They are working in our economy, and they are paid less and they have less rights. And so while the Republican Party likes to give a lot of lip service to how terrible illegal immigration is, at the same time they are hiring those same people from the local store to help at their homes and in their businesses, building, constructing, and in hotels as well as in agriculture. We need to address it from a systems approach.
Thank you, candidates. Now is the time for rebuttal or expansion. You have 1 minute. Mr. Mettler.
Well, again, thank you. And I will just kind of expand on that. I don't know what business she was talking about, but I've been a small businessman my whole life. I've employed thousands of people over the years. I've built homes here, Arizona, down in Southern California, Palm Springs, and in Bakersfield. So I've done a lot of different occupations. I've owned a catering business. I've done whatever it takes to make a living, and I've signed the front of a paycheck for many, many years. That is a success. When you can live under the rules and regulations that are put upon you, still survive, make your payroll, and end up putting some away in the bank that allow you the luxury of running for office, I think that's an American success story, and it's to be celebrated. So I'm very proud of my whole work history and how I've treated people in my business dealings. So I don't know what that was alluding to. So just to sum up, I'm a constitutional conservative. I believe the Constitution has been violated repeatedly, and both parties are very corrupt at the top.
if you can, before you start my time, it's just based on what you said of the closure of your business and the layoff of the 22 people. That in
Your time begins when you begin.
Cal State Bakersfield.
Well,
I thought we were supposed to expand and rebut in regard to immigration. Are we limited to that? Shall we talk about anything else?
You have time to expand.
Okay. I think that the serious issues that we're facing in 2016 are not one party against any other party. It's not the blue team and the red team. It was never supposed to be about politics. It was supposed to be about our government, our self-government. We can continue to elect people who represent their own self-interests, like deregulating the industry in which they work, or we can set high goals for our entire country, the way we did when we set the goal of our space program. We need to face the issues ahead of us. This drought is not a seasonal thing. Climate change and the science of CO2 in our oceans and our atmosphere is not a seasonal thing. We can lie to ourselves, or we can face and bring resources to our district to face our challenges.
Thank you. It's time for question number 3, dealing with energy and economy. Balancing the growth of a strong economy with the protection of our nation's resources has particular significance in California and Kern County. What are your thoughts on the regulations that have affected local economies, particularly in energy production? In your opinion, what regulations are necessary for a strong local economy? Mr. Mettler.
Well, frankly, we are sitting on a gold mine in California. Unfortunately, the politics of California has driven a whole industry out of this state. We had the Monterey Shale project in central California here. I worked on that project, signing up mineral lease holders up and down the state. This would have been a boom for this state, and unwisely, our state government here ran that industry out of here. You watched Occidental Petroleum move from Bakersfield. They were a California company, moved to Houston, Texas, because the political environment here was so hostile to their business interests in this state. So we've lost those jobs. So the overarching issue here is, one, we have to do better education with folks to explain the importance of the oil industry in particular, and we have to be aware that some of these public policies that we're doing are absolute job killers on the federal and the state level.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Your time begins when you begin.
I thank you for asking this question. This is a core principle of my candidacy. Many people believe that the economy and the environment are on two sides of the scale, but I don't believe that. It's not really a good, vibrant, healthy economy if you're polluting your groundwater and you can't drink the water anymore and your community needs to import water from some other country or some other place in order to have good drinking water. I believe that the reason that these companies has moved is not because the environmental regulations were so hard to bear, but because that would have made a tiny little nick in their huge, gigantic profits. And we need to reprioritize as a district, as a nation, as a planet. We can meet these challenges. We can sequester CO2. We can build new refineries that meet the environmental regulations. We should not be exporting our crude. We have a gold mine and we need to drill it and fill it.
Thank you. Now we'll hear closing statements. Right now you have your choice to rebut or expand. I'm sorry, Mr. Mettler.
Are we still on oil?
We're on question 3, yes.
Okay.
We're in Taft. Let's talk oil.
Yeah. Well, I disagree with my opponent on her response there, because frankly it is the overwhelmingly zeal of the environmentalists that has driven our industry into the ground in the state. I watched Occidental lay off people, frankly, in the whole industry. This occurred over the last couple of years. So to say it has no impact is absolutely ridiculous. And it's not just environmental, it's the fact that they put restrictions on an industry that has national importance. We are a strategic commodity that is needed. We have the Naval Petroleum Reserve right here, and we are now a net exporter of natural gas. We are now an exporter of oil. We should be energy independent, and it'll keep us out of foreign entanglements, frankly. So we have a resource, let's exploit it.
Well, you know, Mr. McCarthy's leadership and Mr. Mettler's shared party just removed the ban on exporting our crude. I've spoken to hundreds of oil people in management and workers, and none of them think that's a good idea. If we're looking at domestic production and we're looking at national security, we need to be keeping that oil here and refining it here. We need to make the facility safe, because some of the companies that have gone and worked in Texas have just blown up and killed hundreds of people in the surrounding area. That's not really good business. That's not the kind of economy that any of us want in our communities. So it is silly when we have 1 in 4 children suffering from asthma, downwind from the oil fields, to think that we can't do better. Of course we can do better. We just need to reprioritize whether the people of the district are getting the benefits of that oil or the CEOs of the corporations somewhere else.
Thank you. Now is the time for closing statements. Mr. Mettler, please give us your closing statement.
Well, again, thank you for having us out here. This is a very brief way to get into some pretty lengthy policy decisions. I would like to mention this is the 4th formal forum or candidate debate we've had, and Mr. McCarthy has refused to show up. I don't think that's serving his constituents well. He should show up and be making. He's at a function tomorrow, and he was here yesterday, so I think he's in the district. We have also, I have to hand it to Wendy, we've made ourselves available to fit his schedule at 3 other occasions prior to this, and he is not participating in the democratic process. So I think that is not good in our representative. I can tell you this, I will go anywhere, anytime, debate on any topic with any constituents, the opposing party, whoever. I was just out at Cal State Bakersfield talking to students about free enterprise and free markets. I love doing it, and I'd love to be your representative. Please give me your vote on June 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reed, please give us your closing statement.
I've been a resident of our district for 30 years. I've traveled this district all the way up to Porterville and Tule River and 3 Rivers, out to Boron and Edwards Air Force Base, which is in my backyard. I'm married 27 years to my wonderful husband, Wendell, who comes and is our #1 volunteer for the conservation work that we do in southern Kern and northern Los Angeles County. We have a grown son who is a native Californian, and it turns out that my husband's ancestors came over on the Mayflower and signed the Mayflower Compact. So there are a lot of constitutional principles that I've really been devoted to throughout my entire life. I will continue to represent the real people of our district and what our priorities are for our children and our grandchildren, because some of the things that we think we're in favor of are rather short-sighted in light of the challenges we have. I'll hope very much to earn your trust. My cards are in the back, my phone number's on there. Call me with any questions you have, and I'll always be available, even after I'm elected.
Thank you both very much for your statements. This concludes the portion for the forum for the U.S. congressional candidates. You may leave the platform.
Thank you all so much.
I'd now like to welcome Mr. Mayor Randy Miller to the platform. Mayor Miller will introduce those speaking for and against Measure F.
Thank you, Eric. It's my pleasure to be here to participate in this forum. This portion, because it's information about Measure F rather than candidates will be handled a bit differently. We'll hear from first from Miranda Lomeli O'Reilly, speaking in favor of Measure F, and she will speak for 2 minutes. Then we'll hear a 1-minute rebuttal from Cathy Abernathy. Next, Ms. Abernathy will speak for Measure F, and she'll have 2 minutes allotted for this, and she will be followed by a 1-minute rebuttal by Ms. Riley. This will conclude the portion of the forum reserved for Measure F. So they're already seated. One thing I'd like to do, if we're not real familiar with Measure F, I want to just read out of the impartial analysis. Measure F was placed on the ballot by a resolution of the Kern County Board of Supervisors. A yes vote will, by at least 2/3 of the voters voting for this measure, will approve an ordinance authorizing the Kern County Board of Supervisors to impose a retail sales and use tax at a rate of 1/8% for a period of 8 years beginning January 1st, 2017 for the sole purpose of funding public libraries. So that's the gist of it. So we'll start with Ms. Riley. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. So I first have to thank Taft. So Friends of the Taft Library have been paramount in moving Measure F forward. So I'd like to thank the community of Taft and the Friends of the Taft Library. Also, Dr. Cothran, a former Taft president who helped with Measure F. And also Mary Kay Shell is one of our largest endorsers, as well as Pauline Larwood and Barbara Patrick. So with Measure F, you get libraries that are open 5 days a week. I know currently, right now in Taft, we are not seeing that, and we would like to see that increase. We will also see new programs for children and teens and additional technology.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Abernathy, your rebuttal.
Thank you. Because I'm here as a public citizen, I don't know that there's an organized no on F, but I am a no on F, no on taxes for the library at this time. I support libraries. I go to the library, but I believe this measure is designed internally by the internal library staff and by those who want to propagate the system in the library, and I believe we should first have an outside group look at what are the libraries for the next 50 years supposed to be about versus what the last 50 has been. I think that's something that is going to take a much more sophisticated analysis. My most frequent visits to the library over time have turned into just a growing number of people sitting at the computers. If that's what they're going to be, is that what the building's for? Maybe it is. Those kind of things I think need to be analyzed.
Thank you. Mrs. Abernathy, this is your time to speak against Measure F.
I have the three P's, I guess, for my issues with this proposal. Number one is the process. We have a process in this county for how a measure that increases taxes is presented to the voters, and the process here wasn't followed. The Board of Supervisors, 3 of them versus 2 of them, and your Supervisor Couch here, I believe, voted the right way. They voted after many, many months of, I think, just rolling this thing down the road. After the proponents went to get signatures, all of a sudden it was anxiety to get on this June ballot because it's not as crowded of a ballot initiative-wise. But they never collected the signatures. They never showed the voter interest that I believe anybody who wants to raise taxes should follow the rules, which is to get signatures from the voters first. That wasn't done, so I disagree with the process. The proposal itself raises $15 million a year for 8 years. That's $120 million dedicated to something that unelected people seem to have the drivers. They've come up with these proposals of what it's supposed to do, but I don't know that managing government, again, by the inside, staff people coming up with what they think, I think we need to look at this. So one was the process. 2, the proposal itself. I think that taxes never go away, so when this is passed, should it pass for 8 years, and then it's going to be another 8 years, and it's never going to go away. It's not the only issue that's going to raise your taxes. You've got in the county, there's about $120 million worth of bonds that are going to be voted on. That's not free money. That's taxes and interest, and that's on the taxpayer's dime too. Finally, the private sector in this campaign that I've seen on the library tax, the private sector is somehow a boogeyman. There's something really wrong with the private sector having any role in what goes on with our libraries. I consider the private sector to be the innovator in this country.
Thank you. And Ms. O'Reilly, your rebuttal.
Thank you so much. So the private sector is still on the table. That has not been taken off, and so that's not really a debate. What we're talking about is our libraries, and thankfully we have founding fathers that believed in an institution that would allow for our citizens to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And that's really where our Kern County libraries need to be focusing on, is allowing our citizens and our children to use this to make themselves better and to bring themselves up. And I thank Taft so much for having us. This has been a very wonderful event.
Well, thank you all. Thank you for being here. So that concludes the Measure F portion of the forum, and thank you, ladies. Mr. Campos, you're back up. All right. Dr. Orrin is stepping in for Mr. Campos.
Thank you. I am not Manny Campos. My job here is to say thank you to all of you for being here. We want to acknowledge the Taft Petroleum Club board and its members for allowing us to use this venue. I also want to thank the Taft Union High School MOT under the direction of Rocky O'Neill. This is perhaps the ugliest day in the world for us to ask a favor. They are having graduation tomorrow, and they helped us with a smile, and we appreciate that. I also want to thank the Chamber. I would like to acknowledge thanks to the Chamber Board and staff. Our Chamber Board has always been willing to try something new if it works and is helpful to our community, and I think this has been a helpful evening. So I appreciate the board saying, absolutely, let's try this. I appreciate all the media folk that are here. Thank you. This makes us feel pretty important. The candidates and the advocates, we appreciate you being here. This couldn't have happened unless you were willing to be here, willing to find the Petroleum Club, and spend this time with us. This makes us this makes us feel important. You know, we are good citizens here in Taft, and we're very interested in what's going on. And we appreciate that you have acknowledged that through coming here. I also want to thank the moderators, because it took some time for them to follow our vision and follow our figuring out what we were going to do. To Taft Police Chief Ed Whiting, Interim Superintendent President of Taft College Brock McMurray, the Manager of West Kern Water District Harry Starkey, Eric Cooper of Cooper's True Value and President of the West Side Healthcare District, and of course our Mayor Randy Miller. Thank you to you for taking time. Now, this wouldn't be the Petroleum Club if we didn't have a bar open. Just saying. So you are welcome to stick around and talk. We still have some candidates with us here, and I know that they would be interested in speaking with you. You are welcome to stay here. And once again, and I'm going to do a shameless advertisement. On the 17th of June, that is a Friday night, we are going to have red, white, and barbecue on the corner of 4th and Kern Street. And Carlos Chavira, who is Flacos Tacos, is going to be there with his wonderful food. It's all kinds of food this time. We're going to be there all day long. You can come by and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with us. It's going to be fantastic. And that's going to put us over the top for our fundraising for the fireworks. So please join us there. Also, our fireworks are scheduled at this very moment for July 2nd, and we would invite you to join us for fireworks on that day also. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. You're dismissed.